The GT's origins, as you probably know, go back a half-century to Henry Ford II's dictate to a surprised, or maybe stunned works better here, Dan Gurney and Carroll Shelby, who were summoned to the towering company headquarters near Detroit and told to go to Le Mans and, paraphrasing here, just win, baby. And win that GT40 did, 4 times at Le Mans from 1966 to 1969. Ford sold street versions of the GT, but mostly so it would meet homologation requirements for racing. 40 or so years later, Ford made another GT, but, as impressive as that one was, it was just for the street, not the track. Now Ford has come full circle, celebrating the 50th anniversary of its first Le Mans victory with yet another new GT, and, lucky for us and for anyone with $450,000, Ford is making 1,000 street cars. I got to drive one. And not just on the street, though I did muddle through some country ranchland out in the desert, west of Salt Lake City. No, I got 5 laps around the west loop of what used to be called Miller Motorsports Park, now Utah Motorsports Campus, and then, using my vast experience at press program weaseled another 5 laps at the end of the day when all the other schmoes had long since gotten into their airport limos. Our first stint behind the wheel, we can say stint because it's a race car, was not on the track but on the streets of remotest Utah. Specifically, south of beautiful suburban 2L. Into the GT they poured us. Climbing into the car is not as awkward a task as it is with an original GT40, but it's not for the overly large. The door swings up and out, but not as far as some drivers might prefer. Short, skinny jockeys are at an advantage here. Once your keister is planted, you'll find the seat itself does not slide back and forth, it's fixed. If you're tall you can still fit, but if you have the freakish, fish-like torso with which I've been saddled, you will have a tougher time. If I slid all the way back in the seat and then sat straight up, I'd need a gurney bubble, even without a helmet. But again, my torso belongs in a circus sideshow. Normal human beings should be fine. Indeed, no one else there that day who climbed inside a GT had any problem. Once inside you start adjusting things. The pedals slide up and back to the appropriate length via a simple mechanical slider. The wheel adjusts into any position you might want. Then consider the interior. Ford says it's stark like a race car, you might say it's unfinished like a concept car. The Ferrari 488 and even any of the McLarens are a bit more comfortably livable. Our Ford GT had a huge orange dashpad like something out of a Googie-style restaurant from the 50s. The color choice was a bit loud. But you're in a Ford GT, man, quit your griping. Push the red button to start the 3.5-liter V6 right behind your neck bone and, blat, voom. What a great sound it makes. Not so loud your neighbors will convene the Condo Owners Association, as it might be if it were a 7.0-liter V8, but just loud enough to make your ears happy. The Getrag 7-speed dual-clutch transaxle kicks into D via a shift knob on the center console, that might save space, but it wouldn't have been our first choice of shifter. After that, the paddles behind the sway steering wheel move the gears up and down, or you can let it shift for you. And off we went. Let us stop here for a moment to praise the suspension, which is a thing of wonder. The GT rides on unequal length upper and lower control arms with pushrod, rocker-activated torsion bar, coil springs controlled by electronically adjustable DSFV, dynamic suspension spool valve, dampers from Multimatic. The ride height hydraulically raises or lowers about 2 inches, and can be raised even more in front when you approach a steep driveway. The setup allows for 2 spring rates and a number of damper settings. On the steering wheel you can select from 5 settings for the electro-hydraulic mechanical suspension: wet, normal, sport, track and max. We set out in normal mode on small-town city streets. Here it is not what you would necessarily call overly comfy, but I could certainly live with it. The McLaren and especially the Ferrari are just a wee bit more civilized on city streets. I got to a little bit of a twisty mountain pass section and the car felt good enough in corners, though I wasn't pushing it hard at all. Hard pushing would come soon enough. Then I found myself out of the hills and onto the longest, flattest, straightest, emptiest stretch of desert highway possibly anywhere on Earth. With the suspension in VMAX mode, lowered 2 inches, and with all aerodynamics optimized for speed, I did what any red-blooded American would have done in this situation and floored it. The GT then made the following wildly powerful sounds.